Do you think there's a chance that they get an application in the style of Shakespeare and they think it's real?
I guess if I start sending a new one every day or something, then they might think they've got some sort of schizophrenic person who's like, this is like Macbeth, but part 2 with me as the CEO of Chicken Soup for the Soul.
All right, so day 1, this application comes in and it's in the style of Shakespeare. You're in human resources at Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment.
Yes.
The first one, your reaction's got to be like, what the hell is this, right? Day 2, you get one in the style of Hemingway, right? Yeah. Then you're like, wait a minute, what is... And then by day 3 or 4, you're like, okay, something's going on here.
Then I would think it would then become a fun thing around the office. Okay, if anybody who guesses right which author comes in tomorrow, you get a $50 lunch on us or whatever. Somebody's like, I picked Stephen King. Yes.
Then they have the company-wide meeting and they read some of them. All right, so we'll get into all that, but I think, Kalyn, we should probably get the episode going here. Let's cue the start music. You are listening to Robert and Kalyn Get Rich. Kalyn, can you guess what episode number this is?
10.
That's right. We made it to episode 10. We have outlasted 72% of podcasts. That is a totally made-up statistic, but we know there are a ton of podcasts that die on the vine out there, and for good reason, because nobody listens to podcasts in their first 10 episodes. But once you hit that milestone, slightly more than nobody, people start listening to it. So we're working our way up the steps.
Next, we're taking over Joe Rogan's spot as the #1 most popular podcast. That'll be us.
Joe Rogan, we are coming for you. Today is June 12th, 2024. I am Robert Kimmel. I'm one of your hosts. This is Kalyn Kimmel, my sister, and the other host. We are a couple of folks who like to have some fun and expose our discomfort with finances so that you don't have to. And one thing we are really, really uncomfortable with is you treating this as investment advice. So please do not do that. I suggest that you go ahead right now and smash the like and subscribe buttons now. Yeah. Don't subscribe now, you might not make it to episode 25, which is our next major milestone. You may forget all about us, and we don't want that to happen. Kalyn, before we get into your application letters, let us take a look at our Get Rich portfolio. I'm going to go backwards. Usually we look at the portfolio first, but then we look at the S&P 500, but I'm going to flip it around this time because today the S&P is absolutely ripping. There was like this inflation report that came out, and inflation's a little lower than people expected. Mm-hmm. And so the S&P's up strong today, up over 1%. That doesn't sound like much, I think, to the uninitiated, but the S&P is like this battleship. So to move 1% on trillions and trillions of dollars, that is a big deal. And since we started investing in the S&P has just been very strong, up over 4.5%.
I don't think it's a coincidence since we got involved. So that's when it's really been good. We're big money market drivers. Yeah.
Given how poor people are at predicting trends and things like that, even the experts, I think that's as good a rationale as they would be able to come up with. You can see some of these times we invested, like May 1st, that investment's already up 8%. So fantastic. Yeah. So that's, of course, very disappointing news because we have to try to keep up with the S&P 500. And despite our mediocre day, it was up 1%. We're off 0.3%. So our total gain is only 1.7%. So about a third of how the S&P's done.
Yeah. We've got this one dog today bringing us down. What the heck?
Yeah. Chicken Soup for the Soul. Obviously it's been swingy, but it's mostly been up. I mean, it's up lifetime 5%, but today is just getting crushed 10%. Maybe there's news or something. I should look that up. And here's the other surprise from our portfolio, because Reddit has been an absolute anchor we've been dragging around in this portfolio. I think it was down as far as 20% at one time, but it is ripping today. And now it's up 1.6% lifetime and counting. I'm going to click on Reddit. Look at this chart.
Man.
What did they release earnings or something today? Okay, no news yet on Reddit that I can tell, but maybe people think in a lower interest rate environment that idiots will post on Reddit more often. Since I clicked over that, Chicken Soup for the Soul's recovered a little bit, and we are back up 0.2%. But anyhow, how about Chicken Soup for the Soul? Watch, there's going to be no news here either. Oh, Venture 10 Studio has a second season of their hit influencer reality series, Follow Me.
Oh, my favorite show ever.
On Crackle, premiering on
Crackle. Of course.
Who wouldn't want to watch this? Follow Me, season 2. What it takes to build a brand as an influencer in the social media age.
Well, there's some show that's got a similar premise, which is enough to make me not watch it. Watching people try to be Instagram famous.
Well, I think we ought to watch it since we're trying to become podcast famous. But look, this season, contestants will once again be challenged to craft compelling content inspired by Mars Wrigley's iconic brand portfolio, including favorites like M&M's, Skittles, Snickers, and Hubba Bubba.
Hubba Bubba.
Don't forget Greenies and Royal Canin.
Yeah, that's right.
This thing is sponsored by Mars. Mars is like Crackle is our avenue to reach our consumer.
Yeah, we'll just keep going that way, which is why I'm applying for the CEO position, because I feel like someone needs to right the ship, and soon.
Yeah, maybe we should apply to be CEO of Mars, because whose idea is this? That I get it with candy and Hubba Bubba. I don't know what the Hubba Bubba market is. Who's the Hubba Bubba core consumer? I don't know.
That's like the pink bubble gum. So little kids at Halloween time.
The kind of little kids that want to grow up to be social media influencers.
They're like, I'm in Hubba Bubba. Follow me. I'm 5.
I'm going to look up Hubba Bubba. Yeah, you're so right about it being pink. It has the juicy center or whatever. That was the thing that made it.
Double Bubba. Never mind. If you like the one that see that.
Oh, this Double Bubble.
Double
yeah,
Bubble.
This is the their core market is people who like crappy gum and tons of it, 340 pieces. I thought you were maybe talking about Big League Chew, which I don't know if that still exists.
I love that gum. Here's gum that looks like it's dip, and we're gonna give it to kids. So we can just warm them up to the idea. They used to have candy cigarettes, apparently. Those were out of fashion by the time I came online or whatever. But this was definitely around.
Those were not out of fashion when I was online. You'd occasionally get a candy cigarette in your Valentine's Day bag at school when everybody gets a card and everybody gets a candy.
Right, yeah.
Sometimes those were candy cigarettes. I mean, listen, there is a certain romance about sticking tobacco in your mouth and spitting all over a baseball field. So I totally get why kids might be into that. But
in high school, I dated a guy who actually did dip, which it is a disgusting habit. Being in Texas, there's lots of teenage boys who would dip. And that basically amounts to them having a Coke bottle with a paper towel in it all the time and just sitting there spitting constantly, which is gross.
I would have thought that spitting in bottles would be real attractive to women. I'm surprised that you would say.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was very attractive. It's like, after you spit that thing out, come and give me a kiss. Like, yeah, no.
There it is. All right, well, I think we've buried the headline long enough, Kalyn. I think we should take a look at your CEO letters, applications to Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. I know we were talking about this a little bit before we ran the intro, but why don't you reset the table here and let folks know what's going on and what you did.
Yeah, so as many people have found, ChatGPT or other AI sources can really be helpful with coming up with ideas for how to write a letter. And so in my job search, I've used it a couple of times to come up with some unique wording, and I thought I'd really just run down the rabbit hole with this letter positioning myself as the heir apparent to the CEO role at Chicken Soup for the Soul, Inc. And you can do all kinds of styles. So I decided to start with Hemingway. I'll read the very brief email. They're like, nice and short, just like Hemingway would like it. ChatGPT literally said that at the end of one of them as an aside to me. And I was like, cool. Dear hiring committee, I'm throwing my hat in the ring for the CEO gig, even though it might not fit the mold. Attached is my resume. I've got a gut feeling I could outshine the current chief. Seeing enough of the usual suspects running the show, it's time for a shake-up, a breath of fresh air. I'm not big on ticking boxes or playing by the rules. More into breaking molds and forging new paths. That's the only way to stay ahead in this game. This does sound like Hemingway to me. Let's have a sit down and chew the fat. I've got ideas, and I reckon they're worth a listen. Thanks for the shot. Best, Kalyn.
Can you imagine getting this application letter? Oh, this sounds just like a person we need to bring in here to talk to.
Well,
to chew the fat.
I'm not so much about ticking boxes. I'm about breaking molds and forging new paths.
We do need this.
Yeah. So then I thought, well, what would Edgar Allan Poe say if he were going to be throwing his hat in the ring? He said, "Dear esteemed committee, in shadows deep I dared to pen my plea for the CEO mantle, though not a fit beckons me. Attached my humble resume, a parchment etched with endeavors past. In the gloom of tradition I see flicker of potential, a glint of an orthodox brilliance that may yet outshine the reigning sovereign. I beseech thee, entertain the spectral whisperer from the abyss. Allow me to illuminate the shadows with an incandescent flame of possibility. With bated breath, I await your response amidst the chilling embrace of anticipation. Ever yours in shadowy reverence, Kalyn."
That is really good. All right, so we got to come up with a plan here, I think, right?
Well, yeah, so then I was like, okay, let's have them write one that's proper. And then I was like, but what I really need to make sure that they're driving home here is my experience is I want them to know that I know what the company does, of course. So I also made sure to have them, push that I did not think the CEO was doing a great job. So my favorite line in this was, while I understand that my professional background lies within the healthcare industry, I'm confident that my diverse skill set, leadership experience, and strategic mindset equip me to make a meaningful impact in your industry, which encompasses soup, dog treats, and movies.
Oh.
Yeah. So then this is when I was like, I think we need to talk more about soup here.
I'm glad I didn't have a mouthful of coffee when you said that. It would have ended up all over the room.
You would have spit that out.
Oh my gosh.
In particular, the prospect of contributing to the success of your soup division really resonates deeply with me as someone who appreciates the comforting warmth of nourishment of a bowl of soup can provide. Especially while watching the latest Redbox hit, I'm excited about the possibility of leveraging my experience to further enhance the quality and variety of your soup offerings. Soup, dog treats, and
movies.
And movies.
I forget that. Do they really make soup? Did I forget?
No, I don't think they do actually make soup.
Oh, okay.
Well, they might. I mean, who knows?
Makes it all the better.
Yeah, I know. I'm someone who personally really enjoys eating soup on the couch while watching my newest Redbox movie.
I think I'm uniquely positioned
to really guide this ship.
So that's not the letter you sent in, is it?
No.
Oh, okay. What you send in something pretty plain vanilla?
Yeah. It's like I think that we could go in a different direction. I'd like to put my name forward, kind of thing. Which, I mean, it's no surprise they've looked me over completely.
I mean, kids, this is how you become CEO of a public company is send a letter to the HR department.
Right. Yeah. It's hard to choose which way to go exactly. Do I go with professional, specifically mentioning their soup and such, or should I? Or do I go with a poem?
The guy wanting to chew the fat. We got to bring this guy in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think it would be fun to have different actors. Like, I downloaded something on my phone once and then have promptly done nothing with it. If you highlight something and you want it to read to you versus if I'm in the car and I get a text, I'll just tell it to speak it versus me reading it. But it would do everything in Snoop Dogg's voice, adding his shizzle and fizzle and all that. And I was like, oh man, I would love that. Get text from mom. And they're like... read by Snoop Dogg, or she's like, hello, thought we'd see you. Dad went walking today and found,
whatever.
Man, now it's like if I go more than 4 days without showing up at their house, I've got a text message from mom coming that's about how disappointed she is. They never see me. Literally, I got one on Sunday. She's like, "You said on Thursday that you might come by this weekend. Sunday evening now. I guess you're not coming." And I'm like, I went to dinner with you on Thursday. I was like, maybe I'll swing by the house. We don't have to act like it's a formal visit every time I show up either. If I'm coming twice a week, we're like, "Hey, everyone sit down. Steven, stop doing that. Come sit. Your daughter's here."
Polish the silver.
Yeah,
break out the crystal. Kalyn's here.
Yeah, right. Like, oh gosh, I don't know. I'll put something together. Yeah.
All right, so we need a plan. You're going to submit one of these one a day so you run out of ideas?
The professional one, I'll send that as a follow-up. I'm like, maybe I didn't mention enough, but I know what I'm talking about here. Your soup offerings. I also eat soup and watch movies. So I think we're ready, right? Like, let's move forward. Let's get this going. Have you seen what's happened in your stock today? And then I can, from another account, once a day, I'll send a fake application.
So we get some kind of response or whatever, right? So somehow you're just sending whatever you sent, got you connected with Glassdoor, and they're already sending you chief financial CFO
no, I
type.
was just on Glassdoor for myself. But yeah, I did not know what to make of that listing or whatever. I've never seen anything like it for that CFO position.
It reads to me like a very ego-centric guy wants to offload some work, and I don't know.
Yeah, but not that much. And I'm like, is this the way that a dude who's ready to part with the $600,000 for of his own shares in the company, like, this is how they find it? This is how they do it? I would think you would probably be connected or have a recruiter who would be connected, not showing up on my list where Glassdoor is like, this kind of fits Kalyn. Yeah, perfect. Part-time.
Yeah, it does seem really fishy. You could connect there and it turns out you're actually like, you're a phone bank trying to call people to buy their houses or whatever. I don't know.
I worry about that pretty often. I've gotten a couple that are like, really like you to be a part of our board. And I'm like, why would you want me to be on your board? You're like, I found your resume. It's so impressive. Can you be on our board? I'm like, what?
We heard you know some Harvard people.
Yeah.
That's board material.
Can you talk to them for us, maybe? Like,
not even. We don't want them. We can't afford them,
but you can have them whisper in your ear, right? They'll come to meetings with you. Yeah.
I get the board member emails from time to time too. So yes, it's definitely sketchy. One
of them, they're like, we're a new healthcare, blah, blah, blah. So that's how they got to me, I guess. But it makes no sense for just some random consultant to be on the board of a legit company for healthcare. Like, there are a lot of people to choose from out there within the healthcare industry. If you're, a proper fucking business, like, you need board members. There's a lot of them.
You're way down the list if you ranked them all.
Right. I'm like, man, Santa's got a long naughty list this year. If you're asking me to give my crucial guidance on how to run your company, it's like, well, I've been unemployed for a minute now, so maybe, but maybe I should go on LinkedIn and find some people that are employed there and find somebody in HR. Like, pick a random person out of the hat in HR at Chicken Soup for the Soul and just start flooding their inbox with applications to be CEO.
And I think you should say, or if I can't be CEO, I could be on your board.
I'm happy to be a board member. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit. You ever see the banana slicer?
No, I don't believe so.
All right, hang on. Just like you, like some guy every day for 5 years wrote these amazing reviews of this banana slicer.
For decades, I've been trying to come up with an ideal way to slice my banana. Use a knife, they say. Well, my parole officer won't allow me to be around knives. Shoot it with a gun. Background check. Hello. I had to resort to careful attempt to slice those bananas with my bare hands. 99.9% of the time I would get frustrated and just end up squishing the fruit in my hands and throwing it against the wall in anger. Then, after a fit of banana-induced rage, my parole officer introduced me to this knife. My life was changed. No longer constrained by seething anger and animosity towards thick-skinned yellow fruit, I was able to concentrate on my love for theater and am writing a musical play about two lovers of rival gangs just trying to make it in the world. I think I'll call it South Side Story. Banana Slicer, thanks to you, I see greatness on the horizon. That's really
here's
funny.
the next one. In a city of 1,000 bananas, there is always a story. Like any other, too many cigarettes and not enough work. You know?
Yeah, I love
59,000 people found this review helpful.
There's someone who actually bought it.
Yeah, and they're like, "This, don't buy this." The banana stick in there. So anyway, it just reminds me of that.
That's so funny. I love that kind of stuff. Like, we've gone through like some of the Google reviews, like places and stuff, where people are like, Grand Canyon, 1 star, like lots of walking, whatever. It's like, yep, sure is. I know one was like Auschwitz, and they're like 3 stars. It's a little depressing, if I'm honest. It's like, yeah, you think it's a little depressing, Auschwitz. What was your expectation going in here? They're like, a lot of these buildings are like dilapidated here at this concentration camp. We haven't kept the buildings up nice, and I don't like that.
So one time Cody had a report or something for the Scandinavian peninsula, so we Googled it and we read reviews of the Scandinavian bullets. You're reviewing this landform with 3 countries on it, the size of 50 million square miles. Like, it's 3.5 stars.
Yeah. And how did you end up doing that? Where were you clicking through that you're like, you know what, I am going to write it. I don't want to just write about Norway, though. That's not enough. It needs to be Finland and Sweden also. That's what I've got a real opinion about. It needs to be known on the internet. I know. How like my voice needs to be heard. 2 stars.
Can you even review this? I can't remember who was talking about it, but somebody was like, you can review Amazon gift certificates.
Oh, like, yeah. I saw what you're talking about. It was an author who would get on and see all the reviews, and then they'd see what that person reviewed. And sometimes that person, like if there's somebody who wrote like a scathing review, and they're like, oh, but you wrote a review of an Amazon gift card. Or you wrote a review of this. The
Cupcake Tower.
Right, yeah, the Cupcake Tower.
Yeah, that was This American Life. I remember that. That is one of the most fabulous episodes ever. Like, yeah, you hated my book, but I can live with the fact my book's hated by somebody who just loves this fantasy Cupcake Tower or whatever.
And then I think the host was basically like, so have you read what the people who like he's like, don't tell me, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Like, no, these are my perfect angels. I can't.
Yes, exactly.
He's like, well, we're going to do it. And then he's like, no, this person likes whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I've got to like clean up after this. I'm covered in snot and tears now after laughing so hard at your letters and the banana slicers. I will say this is the hardest I've laughed on one of our episodes. So number 10 is delivering.
That's why I went to town with the Chat GPT. I thought that it would get a good laugh from you. I knew some parts of it would for sure. Goodness. You're like, I'm sweating.
Wipe down. I gotta go take a shower now.
Gotta clean up after this episode. I don't know how well this will show, but I've been trying to find something that's up to date about their streaming stuff. It's like I'm so weird when I'm like, I'm gonna share my screen. See, here's my screen. It's like I feel like an old person. This is exactly the way the mom would be like, so I just put this up to here and that's how you share your screen. This is from Reddit, but this is the cost of cable subscription versus how much everything costs. I'm like, see, I knew it was getting up to be as expensive or more expensive.
Post that to the Facebook page. That's fantastic. That cannot sustain.
Yeah, and I will have to send you this very, very long scoop.market.us streaming services statistics 2024 by platform growth and technology. So this says streaming services by diversity, originality, and global reach statistics. As of 2021, Netflix had around 3,781 titles available in the U.S. alone. Original content has been a focus. They're kind of ebbing, and there's a fairly big movement to disconnect or whatever. This is a very in-depth breakdown of each of these, of the big players. I guess the big 4 are Amazon, Netflix, Hulu. This specifically mentions on HBO Max offered a collection of over 2,000 vintage films and classic TV series as of 2020.
I feel every time there's like a merger of this or that, they talk about these vintage, like there's this huge collection of movies. And I'm like, this is a huge collection of movies nobody's going to watch except for the rare aficionado. And I don't mean Casablanca. People are going to go back and watch Casablanca from time to time, but obscure stuff from the 40s.
Right. Yeah, from the 40s, I don't think I'm probably going to watch anything. Like, what movie came out in the 40s? I don't know.
I mean, Wizard of Oz, maybe.
Wizard of Oz. Yeah, well,
1939, Wizard of Oz. You're gonna watch that from time to time, you know.
I guess so. I mean,
what's the Christmas one?
Miracle on 34th Street.
No, the
Die Hard. Die Hard.
Don't you hear me? Can't you hear me, Janie? You know, every time an angel. I know that sounded like a line from Die Hard, but
it does sound like yeah. I don't know. I do not watch Christmas movies.
It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life.
I've never seen that.
No.
Yeah.
1946.
Everyone loves it, and every Christmas people are like, "Oh, you gotta watch! It's amazing." I'm like, no. I don't know how much
I love it, but it was from 1946, and I would not hold that up as like, oh, you've got to go see this movie. Whichever of these streaming companies has this in their database, you've got to subscribe to that so you can watch It's a Wonderful Life.
But I can see how many people are going back to watch like Bridge on the River Kwai or Deer Hunter or something. I would want my streaming platform that if I'm going to invest in one, I want them to have all of the best pictures ever. I don't know.
Doesn't Amazon have like everything? And then
but you have to buy stuff though. Like when
are you going to pay $20 for a monthly subscription on the off chance you want to watch Bridge over the River Kwai, or are you going to
I watch that super regularly, so
or when you get that insatiable urge to watch Bridge over the River Kwai, maybe then you go on Amazon and spend the $20 once. Which of these two scenarios makes more sense?
It already. So, but the DVD is getting a little used because I watch it so often.
Well, just go to Redbox. All right.
Right.
Put on your big boy pants. Go to Redbox. Get your Bridge over River Kwai. And
I go to the grocery store almost every day, and so now I'm very checked into Redboxes, and I'm like, how is it that I have not yet still? Like, I'm doing it today. I'm buying it. I'm getting something out of that box if I can find one at work.
I mean, that very scenario. All right, substitute Inglourious Bastards for Bridge over River Kwai. But one night I was like, okay, I gotta watch Inglourious Bastards tonight. It's just that kind of night, and it's not on Netflix. It's not on blah blah blah, right? But Amazon, $20. Okay, fine, $20.
But then you could have a whole slew of other movies for that month or whatever. I don't know.
Right, but you don't understand. This urge strikes so maybe, once again, I'm not representative of the...
You should just find something else to watch.
Well, that happens too, but...
Amazon has a higher percentage of movie titles compared to TV shows. Netflix has a lot more documentaries than other platforms, apparently. Apparently, the average consumer spends 4.2 hours per day streaming content in 2020. 4.2 hours.
Holy moly.
Yeah. In the U.S., the average adult spends an average of 3 hours and 46 minutes per day on digital media consumption, including streaming. Okay, so I guess that's using your phone or watching TV, which doesn't sound that bad, I guess.
People need more to do.
Yeah, it's crazy. Nowadays, this is what people do.
Just replace everything. I heard a study that all those social clubs that used to be a big deal, they're still around but dwindling. The Freemasons, the Elks, the da-da-da.
Right.
The bowling leagues. The beginning of the end of all that stuff was television, and people started entertaining themselves in their own home.
And I think COVID has really been a nail in the coffin for a lot of this stuff. I came of age and we got internet in our house. I remember both pre-internet and post in mom and dad's house. I remember not that many people had a computer when I was in their house. People were surprised that we had a computer, that I would play Rita Rabbit thing or something. I don't know.
Rita Rabbit.
I'd be like C:// in DAWs. I remember using that. Like, Jesus.
Our friends had a book that you flip through, and it's interesting sites you can find on the web. And hey, you can, if you type in www.nasa.gov, you can see pictures of the space shuttle, and you're like, wow.
It's like we transitioned from the dark web or whatever. They talk about it basically like being like an iceberg, right? What we all use regularly is like the part that shows, sorted by all these search engines. We can find things fairly easily. Versus the dark web is just like, I'm putting this sheet of paper inside a book in a library and totally uncategorized, just like, there's our trash heap of books. Yeah.
Well, that's your bridge over the River Kwai analogy. You're going to pay for the trash pile of books in the back?
When I was trying to figure out the breakdown, I'm like, so do I just care about total number of things that I can watch available? I don't know if that's a meaningful statistic, really. Like, oh, this one has 50,000 titles. Most of them are in Mongolian, Russian, and Ukraine or whatever, and they do not have subtitles. YouTube has the most videos, right? Of just general videos, but that's not going to make me be like, I want YouTube. That's going to be my thing. They definitely don't have Bridge over River Kwai. So, big gap there.
Oh, I bet you could find Bridge over the River Kwai on YouTube.
Okay. But,
you know what other videos they have?
Yeah.
Robert and Kalyn Get Rich videos. So they clearly have no standards on YouTube.
Oh, apparently in 2020, Netflix users spent an average of 3 hours and 18 minutes per day on the platform. You know, that distribution has to be so crazy.
You know that there's some people really pulling their weight in this department. Like, I think there's homebound people that...
Sure. To be fair to some of those, back when I first started working from home, it's so quiet that I would just like having something on. So I'd often put up stand-up comedy, so I could check in, check out, whatever. But it would be playing most of the day while I was working. But still, 3.5 hours is a lot.
No, you know there's some couch potatoes just sitting there soaking in. The same people who used to watch soap operas all day long and The Price is Right and whatever.
Yeah.
So it averages 3 hours, but some people are watching 12 hours and some people are watching 15 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think I go on Netflix every day. You know, back to the change that's happened around intake. I don't know. I feel like it gives me a very dystopian feeling where nobody's really connecting and we're just watching stuff. And the more and more that's become the norm for everyone, and especially kids. I feel like when you and I were growing up, it was just like, go out. I remember just walking to house and knocking on doors and be like, hey, is Alex home? Can he play or whatever? And there was a lady that lived across the street, Mrs. Music, who I could just come over to her house. This old lady who lived by herself and she let me pet her dog. If some child showed up in my house right now and was like, hi, do you have an animal that I can play with? Can I come inside there and like eat candy or, you know, chat you up for a while? I'd be like, what? CPS would be called if your child is out bicycling by themselves without parental supervision. Yeah. So all that is to say, I don't know which streaming service is the best.
We will put a pin in that then for a future episode when we will declare one of the streaming services the best. In the meantime, should we look at our stock this week, which is CCJ, you might recall, which is Cameco, miners of uranium. I watch uranium quite closely because I'm got a meaningful investment in it, and uranium lately has been down, so this might be a good buying opportunity. My investment in the uranium ETF was down like 1.5%, but one of the holdings in the uranium ETF is Cameco, so I was like, we might as well learn more about this anyway.
Yeah.
And when you go read about Cameco and you look at their annual reports and stuff, you get a bunch of stuff like this where you're like, wow, yeah, look at this slurry hoisting pump and look at this grinding mill. I mean, that's blue.
It's grizzly screen.
Grizzly screen. If you fell in that, it would be grizzly indeed, I bet. But
yeah, man.
Yeah, these guys have. This one wasn't one of them, but they have underground trains and stuff, and you know,
mining and stuff is freaking crazy to me.
Their thesis is the same as mine, which is like, here's the demand. All right, so just looking at this chart, right? Primary supply, which means mined uranium, is dark blue. Secondary supply, I think, is crap, like changing those weapons into uranium, which I'm not sure why it spiked in 2021. But and they're like, all right, here's
people couldn't work. Right, so miners couldn't go mine, but we made them go down there anyways.
They wear masks every day anyways. So.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna die pretty soon. You're down mining uranium. I mean, this sounds crazy dangerous. Isn't it radioactive?
You signed up for this, didn't you know? You were like...
Yeah.
Okay. And then they're like, all right, here's where we think the demand is gonna go. And I just love this. Imagine this case... tripling capacity by 2050 is just off the charts. So anyway, I mean, this is the same basic thing. You know, their financials are doing great. Their revenue last year was 2.5 billion, up from 1.8, up from 1.4.
Wow, they really
and their profits are up. They're at 800, which is really nice on 2.6. They doubled last year and they doubled the year before that. And so what's driving that? Yeah, I really like this chart because uranium price had gone up from 35 a pound to 49 a pound US. And so they're like, here was our revenue. Here's the bridge, right? From 22 to 23. Yeah. So they had higher volume. So 370 of the difference is higher volume and 300 is higher prices. So yeah, they're making more of the stuff, but they're also getting higher prices.
Right. Inflation is working for uraniums too.
Yeah. So we had talked about charts and charting last. So I pulled up the CCJ candlestick chart, so here it is.
Yeah.
This is 1 year, and I'm like, yeah. All right. So here's what I did learn. So candlesticks, right? Candlesticks for a period of time.
Right.
And the period of time changes based on the length of the charts, but the range is the open and the close for that period. And then the lines,
the wick,
the lines are how high or how low it ever got during that period, right? So this is June 6th, started the day at 54.19 and ended the day at 55.4, but it got as high as 55 and it got as low as 53 something, right?
So like if you went to one on the 10th where it's like a pretty skinny, ultimately it didn't change all that much, but there was a lot of variability, but opening and close was similar, right?
Yeah.
That's what,
And then these Bollinger Bands are exactly what you thought. They're 2 standard deviations of the variability of the stock, and the line down the middle is the 20 period moving average or something. So on the one hand, I'm like, it is kind of wild how they really stay within that band, but then I also just sort of wonder, is there like a mathematical explanation where it's like, well, of course they stay within 2 standard deviations. That's, 90%, or whatever.
98% or something like that.
Maybe there's something to it where like they definitely bounce off the lines. Anyway, so I didn't know too much about, we'll get back to this chart in a second, but I went on StockTwits because I'm like, I don't know this much about charts. What are the experts on StockTwits? Because where else would you find
Having worked as an analyst, I'm like, these are like the Uber analysts, like the, like the mega analysts. They're like made up of many lesser analysts.
Chartists love this stuff where they're like, look, we're back to the all-time high. This is extremely amazing.
Yeah.
This guy loves the same thing, right? We tested this high. They love this. Like this was an old high back here, right? Then we broke through that high and we set a new high. And then when we came back down, it hit off this previous high and bounced back up, right? So this former ceiling is now a floor. And I don't know.
It's very interesting. I mean, of course, this is a company that's done well, but it makes you feel safer if you're buying from a good company that may have some variability, but like at least you're not going to go down from there. I would hope that all of my ceilings turn into floors on my stocks. So the red line and the green line are the 20-week average for high-low. Is that right?
The black line down the middle is the 20 period moving average. So in this case, I think it's days because I'm on the 1 year chart.
Okay.
And then the red is 50-day moving average, and then the blue is 200-day moving average.
So why those particular numbers? Like 20 days, why not a month? Obviously, why recent average versus longer term average, but I feel like once we're getting into, you said 200 was the biggest one?
200 is like a very standard one. Now, I did hear a guy on one podcast where I think he said the 150, but he might have said the 180. It might have been the 180 because that's 6 months basically, and it's 3... He's like, what you find out is that's 2 quarters, and then the quarterly reports come out, and it ties together and makes some sense.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
All right, well, I made the blue line 50 days, so wow, way better.
Yeah.
I've listened to a couple hours worth of technicals. I listened to these things, and then I got in front of this chart, and I was like, okay, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But I think they would go nuts back here because this hit this same basic high level like 4 times, right?
Right.
And then this time it broke through. And so when they got up to like here and the 50 days ahead of the 180 day and everything's above the 20, I think this is where they would go nuts. And then they would consider this an uptrend. But all this bottoming right at this high, like they would say, this is all great and amazing,
Yeah.
But this.
So, I mean, it's definitely interesting to have a retrospective perspective. But like for me as an investor, what is this telling me? If I'm looking at a chart, I'm like, here's where we are right now. Should I be buying this based on hitting that high 4 times already and we've broken through? Or should I be selling right now? Like, so we'll time travel back to, let's say we're in October 2023. So we've had a couple of the same peak or whatever.
Right.
But like, how would I know to invest then?
So my sense is a chartist would not invest at these peaks, right? They would invest somewhere like here where they see this uptrend, and then they feel like
we got back to that point that we usually start sinking, but we've continued.
Yes, exactly. That breakthrough.
If they just bought at one of the older peaks, they just would have to hold it a little longer.
They would have to then hold it and ride through additional peaks.
Yeah,
bouncing
that limits how much you can invest in other stuff or whatever. Yeah.
But I totally get how it's a little contradictory or contrarian to think, oh, I'm going to buy it at a high. Because,
right.
Buy low, sell high, of course, is the...
Yeah.
But
and like, how are we to know that we won't just go back down? I mean, that this isn't just a slightly new peak.
No, I know. Well, this is why. And then, skeptics of charting are like, this is all voodoo, right? Because,
right.
Okay, it broke through, but it's going to just come on back down.
Yeah.
I think chartists would look at where we are right now, where we just had this double top, and then we're beyond the double top. They would say it's a go. This is a good time to buy, especially if you look at the very end, it's come back down again, but it's right at the previous 2 peaks. It's like perfect. This is now a new floor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it is, unless it's not, right? Just sort of like where you were getting at.
I don't know. I'm like, is the chart going like this? Because that's what I like. If it's going up versus going down. Hopefully that trend continues. But that's pretty basic. You don't need the Bollinger Bands to tell me the chart is generally on the rise.
Well, exactly. So Kalyn, this is what we would call an uptrend. So.
Oh.
and what was kind of funny on the Bollinger Band video I watched was evidently when the bands narrow, then that indicates that it may be approaching a breakthrough, which there's 2 funny parts about that sentence, because one may be approaching a breakthrough.
Right.
And then the second part that is funny is it might be a breakthrough, but they don't tell you what direction. So in the example on the video, they narrowed and then the breakthrough to the downside.
Yeah.
So
it just went to shit.
So if you went back here and I don't.
Yeah,
so
I want to see when I invested in CCJ just so I can figure out when. Let's see, price paid is $20.
If you bought at 20, you could have hit 20 back here. Then you languished for a time. Then you lost a bunch of money and you languished for even longer. So if you think
that sounds right.
If you think it was more like 10 or 12 years ago, then
probably.
Then that is stunk. And then recently you paid off, but But
this, so then should I sell? Should I sell now that I'm up 150?
No, the chartist. If you're listening to the chartist on StockTwits, which if you can think of a more reputable source than the chart guys on StockTwits, I don't know. But if you listen to those guys, like this is just a beautiful chart, and it hitting this previous high again is attractive to them.
Right.
So especially if it breaks the high, then it's go time.
Yeah. And the chart goes like this, so that's good, right?
It goes what's the that Kalyn, that is what we call an uptrend. When it goes like this.
I can write that down.
Now, when it goes like this, that's called a downtrend.
Downtrend.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Downtrend.
Downtrend.
Dang it, dummy. No. Haven't you learned anything?
Oh.
Finance is hard. Uptrend, downtrend, So I don't know. I mean, this is probably going to be a real dog, but I mean, so what we just did is we looked at the fundamentals, right?
Yeah.
And then we looked at the charts. A lot of investors are like, I'm not a chartist, but when the chart says something and the fundamental says something, this is like a good deal.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. I guess I would argue that we should add CCJ to the portfolio.
Yeah.
I think it's had a tough past couple of days. It came down, which is probably good, right? we're a little off the peak.
So
Sorry,
yeah,
all these
that
views,
like bubble did make the Behringer bands look pretty interesting to me. Like, but it's all kind of like that part right there. But
yeah,
man,
woo!
you're like, wow, things
Look at
got
these
wild.
Behringer bands. This is incredible. And it looks like we're close to the red crossing the blue on this chart,
Right,
which everybody knows is,
yeah, it's really meaningful. It's like
a really
a
important,
full
huge
moon.
sign.
There's a full moon.
Oh, there is a full moon? All right, it's a go for sure then.
That's when the blue and red cross. They just happens to always align. That's the Illuminati telling you that you should buy.
It's freaking go time, baby. Go.
Yeah.
Chart says go.
Right.
All right, so we're going to put 1,000 into CCJ.
Yay.
Now let's go to the part of our show we call What the Hell is in Kalyn's Portfolio. I can't remember if it was offline or during the show, but you mentioned two stocks that I thought sounded interesting. One was called Am I the Asshole?
Well, it was so,
and the other one was True. So those go together really well.
Yeah, so it's ATAI, which on Reddit, Am I the Asshole is AITA. Same letters, just a little switcheroo there. And then I don't know what that is really. Let's see. Quote details. Am I the Asshole is ATI Life Sciences. Oh, it's some psychedelic medication.
How can we possibly invest in something that is a very close acronym with
Am I the Asshole?
Okay, well, ATAI Life Sciences, you said this has been crushing it for you lately?
Oh, no. It is.
No.
I would not say it's been crushing it lately. I would say the total gain, I am at negative 34%. Today, I am up 2%. So, yeah.
Oh, this is a classic Kalyn chart. Check it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, hell yeah, look at that.
Let's check the candles.
Yeah. I do feel I have been interested in the changes that we are seeing in the drug industry, not pharmaceuticals, but specifically the medicinal mushrooms, ketamine, things that we've historically had under the illegal drugs umbrella that have now shown real promise and a lot of really good research on using them in a clinical setting. And so I'm like, this is a kind of a whole new area that is also pretty proven in the illegal market, at least. Mushrooms are very interesting to me, their approach, because it's so different. It's so contrary to all of our other, basically like a one-time treatment. And the rationale is very interesting to me, but that has a lot more appeal for me on a personal level than being on an antidepressant for the rest of my life, say, when we really don't have all that good of data showing that it's much better than placebo. I like the idea of let's solve the problem
with mushrooms. That makes sense
with
to me.
taking mushrooms one time. It sounds freaking crazy to me. Apparently, you go into the office, you plan to be there the whole day. They set you up in a room with headphones and an eye mask, and then they give you you take it as a pill, but it's roughly 5 to 7 times what like a drug user would take. You've seen, I'm sure, videos of like like people that seem out of their gourd on mushrooms were taking 5 to 7 times more than that at a doctor's office, and then you sit there with the eye mask on, and they just check on your vitals every now and then. You don't talk at all.
Yep.
And the theory is that basically shaking the snow globe. And now we're taking whole different routes, which is why people hallucinate, because things are misfiring essentially, but it starts to break up your normal pattern in a physiological way, which I think is super fascinating. Because basically, we just need to not have something slightly bad happen, and my automatic response is, God, I'm a piece of shit. I'll never amount to anything. I need to that quick change needs to switch. And so, yeah, and then MDMA, I remember when I was in an undergrad, I watched a video. I bought it on VHS. It was called Ecstasy Rising, and it was about, specifically, it was patients with terminal diseases, and they would have a session where they would take MDMA, which is ecstasy, and it helped them be in a much better place as far as accepting that they were indeed going to die. And like they had interviews with people, like these are little old ladies, who are very sick and dying, and they're like, yeah, I feel at peace with everything, and I was unable to get out of bed, and now I feel like I want to enjoy this world while I'm still here. And it's like, that's pretty amazing. And there's been pretty consistent research. That's part of why we're seeing these become legalized. In Colorado, I think, has both MDMA and mushrooms now pharmaceutically available, which is very cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So which Which platform has Ecstasy Rising in their archives? That's what I want to know. Which streaming platform?
I know. I mean, I'm gonna.
Or should I just pay Amazon $20 to rent Ecstasy Rising?
I don't know if you would even be able to do that. I have the last copy in the world on VHS. I'd have to take it into one of those places that converts it or whatever. Set up a video camcorder at the TV while I play it on mom and dad's TV since they've got the VHS.
Right, so I highlighted this section. Psilocybin is mushrooms, right? So yeah, that's what these cats do.
And then,
all right,
so then down a few lines, they have R-MDMA on this. So yeah, then I don't know what they're referencing with some of this stuff, but 5-HT is serotonin receptors.
And they named one of their compounds 007, so that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, so. I mean, I want to take that. For whatever
and this is no fun, but they file their reports on time. They're
German. They're based in Germany. You think those guys aren't gonna?
We follow the rules. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been Schluben desert.
1, 2, 3, bravo.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just watching a thing. There's an Amazon video that's like castles around the world, and they had one that was the castle that's like right around Stuttgart. But it was a really fun little show. Like they said the plumbers, it's been in the family business. The dad and son that work together. The dad is like 75. The son is 45, but they have to climb all these stairs because they also have to maintain the roof of the castle. And so every day, their father and son walking up these endless stairs together. Very cute.
Well, someday maybe they'll make videos about us
and our castles.
45-year-old children who we make podcasts. So until that time, let's cue the outro music. This has been an episode of Robert and Kalyn Get Rich, a production of Get Rich Enterprises, which is merging with Chicken Soup for the Soul Enterprises as soon as Kalyn can get on their board of directors.
That's right. Or CEO.
Make sure that you rate and subscribe us. Do not forget to do that. If you hit the like button earlier in the show, don't hit the unlike button again. And if you haven't liked us yet, go ahead and like us.
Yeah.
Send us an email.
Yeah.
Robert and Kalyn Get Rich at gmail.com. Kalyn is spelled Kalyn. Robert is spelled Robert. Stock next week will be ATAI. We will look at that one. And we have our first guest since Her Majesty the Queen, of course, Andrea. So we'll get a sense if Tony knows anything about psilocybin next week.
Yeah.
And until then, Robert and Kalyn, get rich. Peace out.